Hey, Shane.
Yes.
Have you seen Andor?
I don't know how to answer this question, Spencer, because yes, I have, but also no, I haven't for podcast reasons.
Great. The facade is gone. Go to the episode.
So yeah, I started watching Andor of my own volition.
Yeah.
Before we decided to do a podcast episode on it.
And I had watched it way back when it was coming out.
Yeah.
Or after, like shortly after it ended, I caught up and watched it all.
Yeah. How do you want to start this conversation? Do we want to talk about Star Wars things, like our general feelings on the Star Wars saga?
I think we should talk our feelings on Star Wars, a small little bit on the state of Star Wars at the current moment, and then jump into Andor and why we chose to do like an episode on it versus all the other stuff.
Bars.
Do you want to kick that off with Star Wars talk or?
Yeah. I grew up in a Star Wars house, fam. Like we loved me and my brother like loved Star Wars as kids. We were kids when the prequels started coming out, and so we were like the perfect age to be like super into those, you know. Like the first one came out 99?
Yes.
So I was young. I was 4 for that one. But then like Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, like I was like very much in the wheelhouse with some. I mean, like Revenge of the Sith gets kind of dark for me. But I remember seeing Revenge of the Sith in the theater. Like huge Star Wars fan as a kid. And I loved the prequels as a kid. And then as I got older, I, kind of went through that period of reevaluation of the prequels, and I kind of fell out of love with them in a lot of ways. And then as I grew older, I found more appreciation for them. And then the sequel series started coming out, and like I went and saw all of them in the theater, like opening weekend. And like I really loved Force Awakens when it came out. I really loved Last Jedi. At me, haters. And then I was not a big fan of Rise of Skywalker. But then there was like Rogue One that I loved. I loved Rogue One. We went and saw that in the theater together, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
I loved that. And then like I'm also kind of weirdly a Solo defender. Like I don't.
You are actually,
like,
yeah.
I don't think it's very good, but I do enjoy watching it. Like I always say this, like in a shapes and colors kind of way, it's an enjoyable movie. It's dumb and bad in many ways, but I do enjoy it for some stupid reason. It's like, it's a good movie. When I buy a new TV, it's a good movie to kick on because I think that movie looks good and it's kind of dark. Like the visuals of that movie are like just visually dark, and so I think it's usually a good movie to test out like HDR and that kind of thing. So I find myself kind of watching it usually when a new TV enters the house. I don't know. I like it. I don't love it. I won't defend its story or its background or anything of that nature. I will defend Alden Ehrenreich a little bit because I think he got a bad rap, and I do think he's a pretty good young Han Solo. I don't think he's doing a Harrison Ford impression, but
not at all.
But I also don't hate that. I actually kind of like that choice. Anyways, so very much a Star Wars fan. Over the past few years, I have been further and further disillusioned with some of the choices that Disney has been making with that franchise. I mean, like starting with things like Solo. And then like the shows that they have decided to do, I've thought have been kind of increasingly strange, and I have been increasingly uninterested in, for lack of a better word. Like I liked the first season of The Mandalorian. I actually really, really liked the first season of The Mandalorian. The second season I wasn't as interested in. Boba Fett, I had no interest in and was like pleasantly surprised with parts of it, but overall I didn't care for it. And then I have no interest in Ahsoka, and I did not care for Obi-Wan. And like in that, Andor was announced, and I was like, man, who cares? Like I just was not interested in Andor. And then we'll get into what my thoughts are. But that's a little bit of my history with Star Wars.
Mine is similar. I mean, I grew up on all of the Star Wars movies. I'm pretty sure like just me or my brother had like Revenge of the Sith sheets as a kid. I still at my parents' house, I still have a cup that came from Revenge of the Sith, like that I use all the time. I can't believe I didn't bring that when I moved down here, but
Damn you.
I had that. Lego Star Wars was the foundational video game in a weird way. I bought the new Lego, the Skywalker Saga Lego Star Wars. I own, if you can see it, this Darth Vader bust. I own this that I went and built at Galaxy's Edge at Disney.
Yeah. I mean, I've got Star Wars memorabilia.
Yeah, it's
bought that at Galaxy's Edge. We bought this little. Oh, I don't think you can see it on camera, but we have a little Wampa plush.
Yeah,
this booger looks like a Wampa.
He knows what a Wampa is. Like we
know what a Wampa is.
I am like a Star Wars fan. I've watched all of the Clone Wars. I've watched all of Rebels.
The video games, I forgot to mention, I loved I liked the Battlefront, the new ones, the 2016 and Battlefront 2. I really liked those games.
Dude,
Damn,
both of those games came out and were kind of not great, and then post them being out for a while got really good.
Yeah, like the first one had its kind of gross season pass stuff, but I bought the season pass super cheap. One they were doing like I
got like the ultimate edition of the game that had just fucking everything on it, and so I was like, whatever.
And then the new one, wow, there's a lot of controversy when it came out, but by the end of its life cycle, was a phenomenal
People
game.
are still playing it.
Yeah.
Dude, I hopped in not that long ago. I was playing with somebody, and it's a total blast.
Really game. Like just a really, really well-made game.
And it is sad that is slept on in that way. But so I'm this is the cup I'm drinking out of. It says, "Who's your daddy?" and it's Darth Vader. That I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
I have an abusive relationship with Star Wars, where every time I'm like The Rise of Skywalker is the perfect example. Yes. I do not like that movie. No. I adamantly dislike it.
Yeah.
And we try not to be too negative.
I tried to put it lightly.
Right. Like, this is, but I went and saw it and was like, I don't know, it had some cool stuff. And then I saw the movie like 4 times in theaters because I kept wanting to like it.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to convince myself, and finally I just be like, this movie's bad. I don't like this movie. Like, and then there's this new, like, in a lot of ways, like, slog of stuff to get through. Like, Ahsoka's like my favorite Star Wars character ever, so that show, I watched it and I have kind of very mixed feelings on it. Mandalorian has its ups and downs.
Yeah.
They announced a million things, and Andor was at the bottom of that list. And this is kind of now the state of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Where, like, James Mangold is doing a movie. There's a show called The Acolyte that's been announced forever.
Yeah.
Dave, which is like a cool premise. Like, that was one of the ones I was like, that sounds really awesome.
It's just that was announced a billion years ago.
When Andor and Ahsoka were announced, and it still hasn't come to light.
Remember when D&D of
when they were going to do a Star Wars?
Yeah, they were going to do a whole trilogy.
And when Rian Johnson was going to do a whole trilogy.
Yeah.
Which that was never officially canceled. It's just not ever going to happen. But
Sadly.
There's that. There's all this new stuff. There's a bunch of animated stuff. And my feelings on Star Wars, I think it's now modern day at its best in animation.
Yeah.
The Clone Wars is legitimately great.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately. The last arc of Clone Wars, the Siege of Mandalore arc, is maybe the best Star Wars thing ever, with one pretty big exception. Other than Empire.
Yeah.
Empire, I think, is just the best. And then after that, it's like there's things fighting for number one.
Yeah.
But there's so much Star Wars shit right now.
Yeah.
And there's like Dave Filoni's going to have his movie that's going to tie together all these shows and stuff. And I'm like, I don't care. Like,
I don't need that.
I'm done with
I don't need an Avengers.
I do not need an Avengers. We got it in that one cool episode of The Mandalorian where they all teamed up. It's fun. That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm out. We're good. And then the one I didn't care about at all.
Yeah.
Andor.
Yeah.
And I liked Rogue One. I don't love that like a lot of people do. I think it has a couple of like story issues that I'm not that hurt it for me more than it hurts it for other people. But that movie is so well directed.
It's like one big issue, right?
My fundamental issue with it, and this is like a storytelling thing, is it's important to have your characters make difficult choices.
Yeah.
And no one makes a choice in all of Rogue One for themselves until like the third act.
Yeah.
Past the point where I'm like, I kind of, okay. Like for Force Awakens, for all of its flaws, does have characters making choices trying to achieve goals.
Yeah.
Like this has that, but they're kind of more whisked along. Like Andor in that movie, he's a cool character, but he's just a like, for most of it, he's just a orders following assassin.
Yeah.
And then Andor changes that and makes it very, very compelling what he's doing.
Yeah.
But then Andor comes out and it's incredible. Like, is that a safe?
I can't even. Yes. Like I can't believe what they did with it.
I know.
I can't believe it. It's like I have a whole notes prepared if you are prepared to go along with me on that journey. Because like I have some structure if we want to structure this conversation. But I can't believe how good Andor is on all fronts.
Dude, that's what I was talking about today earlier. I was like, it's the bar for Star Wars now is like competently shot, fun. I see cool stuff. Like that's the bar for a good Star Wars project in this current moment.
Yeah.
Andor is all of those things.
Yeah.
An incredible story, and it's not just competent.
No.
Nothing in Andor is competent. It is all exceptional.
It is all, either like really, really good or phenomenal.
Yeah, like
it's like there's nothing that is like second thought or
I know.
poorly done or poorly rendered or poorly made. It is just like front to back great. Like I can't believe how good that show is. And it is so surprising to me how ignored it feels. Or maybe it's not that surprising.
It is and it isn't. I was gonna make a joke that we finally do something for the nerds. And literally for the first time, kind of. Not completely, but for the first time, and it's the least popular one.
Yeah. But again, it's like the best one.
No, it legitimately is the best.
Decades.
I'm telling you, dude, I think the best Star Wars things ever are the Clone Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Andor.
Yeah.
I can't think of many other things that are that fucking good.
Yeah.
Like The Last Jedi has issues, but it is an exceptional ride.
It
like,
has so much going for it and then so many asterisks.
Yeah, like so many caveats, so many but you have to be aware of it, which frustrates me. Andor is like, you and I had similar ways of watching this where we kind of started it and were slow for a little bit and then we just binged.
Yeah.
Which is weird going back.
I went really slow with it.
Yeah.
I watched it over months.
And see, I watched it over the course of I watched the first episode and then the second episode, and I took like a month off and then I just binged and caught up because I got so into it. But which is funny to go back. I'm in the midst of rewatching it right now.
Yeah.
Those first episodes are exceptional. Why did I slow down? I don't know.
I feel like it's funny. This show is so built around these arcs, which
is like a traditional television show. Like
goodness, like y'all did it. Like the thing that is good about the Clone Wars show. Yes.
They literally did that, but with just like a little bit more of a through line. You know what I mean? Like Clone Wars is for a lot of it very like the only thing that's going to carry over in any way is like character development.
Right.
Andor has that, but there are themes that go throughout. But there are definitive arcs in that show, and in a way that I think is like lost in television in a lot of ways.
Right. And so when I started it, I watched like the first arc over, the first 3 episodes over. I was traveling for work, and then a few weeks later, or like a month or two later, I watched the next one. And then a couple months after that, I watched all of it all in a row. I just finished essentially the second half of the show, just blew through it. And holy shit, man.
Yeah.
Like
Andor is just, there's been this like trend in these shows. Like I think Kenobi does this horribly. Like Kenobi is a bad example of how to do this, but there's Kenobi and then there's the side story.
Right.
Where Andor has that, but Andor's are so compelling. And it doesn't ever feel like it's not his show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are times in Kenobi where it's almost like, are y'all interested in telling an Obi-Wan Kenobi story? Because this isn't even thematically connected.
I mean, they did that so hard with Boba Fett, it's not even
Like
funny.
Boba Fett to the point that there was an episode, 2 episodes, one episode of Boba Fett where he's not in it, and then another episode where he doesn't say anything, he just looks and nods, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like it just becomes the Mandalorian
for no
2
reason.
episodes.
It completely breaks the pacing of that show. Not that show had amazing pacing or anything, but I don't love Boba Fett either.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just thrilled that like they gave a dude money to do this and he made a good thing. Like Gilroy, I can't remember his first name. Just like clearly like had a vision. Oh, and there it goes.
No! It's fine.
It's literally exactly like the freaking
Avatar
episode. Clearly had it. Tony Gilroy?
I think so.
Clearly had a vision, clearly had an idea, and like just did it. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like,
practical sets. Like there are entire streets they built that are just real, that are just extended with CGI. So what a novel idea.
Yeah, to go through my kind of the fact that there are real locations and real props is a revelation in these shows that are increasingly done digitally or in the volume.
Yeah.
Which, depending on who is DPing it, it could look phenomenal or it could look bad.
Yeah, the volume is a great piece of technology that is being completely misused. Like
By everyone except for Greg Fraser.
By
He's the
literally everyone except Greg
only
Fraser.
one who knows how to use it right, and boy howdy does he know how to use it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so I watched a video from Thomas Flight, who on YouTube.
Yeah.
Love his channel. Absolutely wonderful. He does he made a video about Andor and kind of the way that it uses its visuals and its storytelling to lend the perspective to these everyday people within this universe. It's like so they're using real locations, they're using real props, they're like people are sitting down and eating food, people are sleeping, like, you know what I mean, like it just puts it puts the emphasis on
they talk about a toilet, you know what I mean, like it's just the weird mundane things that Star Wars has always avoided.
Right. It's like it takes the like space opera universe and it brings it down to reality in such like all of the shots of the world aren't done through these sweeping helicopter shots, you know, digitally done. They're through the perspective of the person who's seeing it. So it's like, okay, yes, we might see kind of a sweeping shot of a planet, but that's from the perspective of the person who's flying to the planet.
I think a big example of that is during the heist when they're like walking to the heist. There's this part where they're like worried about transports and ships coming in, and they don't like cut to a shot of the ship coming down.
No.
And it just looms in the background over the shoulder of a character, putting you in their POV. It's that is littered throughout the whole thing.
The thing that Thomas Flight mentions in that video is that he says it's like they use those almost as monsters. Like they're shot like this scary presence that they're hiding from. It's not this like, ooh, cool toy. It's,
it's when the fucking the Star Destroyer comes in and it is just a shadow over them. It's not. You don't get a wide. You get this massive hulking thing coming over to ruin their lives.
Yeah. Terrifying. And it's terrifying.
So good.
It's so good. It's like at putting the characters or putting the camera and the perspective in their shoes as opposed to this like kind of omniscient.
Well, dude, it's a fundamental piece of storytelling. Is your camera is it what is my brain is breaking.
I know what you're trying to say.
It's the Oppenheimer thing. It's like it's either objective or subjective.
Yes.
Do you have an objective camera or do you have a subjective camera?
Right.
And this show just does that, which is a fundamental piece of storytelling that if you watch anything else, The Mandalorian is just like a wide shot of people standing.
Right.
That is very objective and very like, I don't know, like I feel like if you had just framed this a little different and brought us into somebody's head a little bit, like we would have got there.
Yeah.
And Andor does that with every character and every scene. Like, it's so good.
Right.
It's so good.
I mean, like, I feel like the prequels are very like objective.
Yes.
They're proscenium.
You get glimpses into something, but it's not.
And then you like so much of that kind of visual storytelling is fractured across and that's not necessarily a problem because different stories might call for kind of different visuals.
Yeah.
But it's like, the Lucas and his storytelling, his visual storytelling is again very objective, and then you go to somebody like J.J. Abrams with The Force Awakens, who's very subjective. He's very in the character's point of view. It's very like shaky and like visceral and kinetic in a way that like Lucas's isn't. Except for the shots, except for all the VFX stuff like that, which is clearly not done by a VFX supervisor, not by him. And so like to see this storytelling, this visual storytelling being done so precisely and so well to put us in this perspective of not these amazing superheroes, not these Jedi, but everyday human beings that have to deal with the ramifications of these things that are happening throughout the universe is just so phenomenally well done. To bridge into kind of the next point is those ramifications are happening because of these like real world politics and rebellion. And it is like the most accurate description of what a political system that would cause a rebellion that I've ever seen in a sci-fi world like this. Like the kind of like banal political bureaucratic elements that we see inside the IBC or whatever, IDC, I can't remember the Imperial Force.
They're like a security intelligence agency.
Exactly. And so it's like it's all very like nuanced and like again like bureaucratic and like almost banal in a certain way, where it's like in the prequels it's like they're doing what Lucas wanted to do with the prequels, but it's so obfuscated behind trade agreements and blockades and all this kind of
like
stuff.
Literal politics versus ramifications of political action, right?
But even then, it's like we see these political decisions being made based off of actions that are taken by characters. It's like it isn't just like the emperor made this choice to do this, that like it takes like this 70 chess inside the emperor's mind to be able to make sense of this, where it's like the politics inside of Andor are very like cause and effect.
Yeah, no, like it the entire setup that leads us on this journey is the heist, right? Which is like spoilers now, but the setup to this is they steal like the payroll for an entire Imperial sector, right? Taking the money and causing all these issues and causing the Empire to like triple down galaxy wide over this, because now they have to prove that we can't actually be hurt. So now we're going to stop this. And that is what he wanted to happen because he wanted oppression to breed rebellion.
Yes.
And like you're watching it unfold and you're like, oh, holy shit. Like, and how it goes over certain characters' heads that they don't understand why they would do this, and how it deals with elements of like, I love his line. He's like, they're so arrogant. You know what I mean? He's like, all you need is what? A toolkit and a clipboard, like, and you can get in anywhere and steal anything. Like, it never loses sight of like the spite the characters have for the Empire, which is, the prevailing force of this. Yeah. But it also never loses sight of the objective of people. You know what I mean? Like, Andor is doing this not only because he needs money, but he does hate the Empire. Yeah. He hates them. Yeah. Right? So does every character. Yeah. But every character also makes selfish decisions. Right. It's unbelievable. Like, the show is so good.
It's also the first time it made the Empire scary. Like, actually really scary. Outside of, like, guys, the Empire's bad. They're really evil.
It's
but why?
So
How?
gray. It's so like everything in the show is gray. For a franchise predicated on light versus dark, this one is entirely gray. Yes. Everything about this show is so little, and so like, when are you gonna? Don't you want to fight these bastards for real? Right? Like it's all of this little stuff of like, I know you want to do this, and this character's like, I just want money and get out of here. Like. It's all so good. Like,
I mean, like again, like they just actually made the Empire scary.
Yeah.
It gave us actual reasons to hate the Empire outside of people just saying the Empire's bad and they're just trying to squash a rebellion.
Like, they're not blowing up planets in this, which is an abstract idea. They're literally torturing and arresting people for no reason and all of that. Like,
Right.
It's so good.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Yeah, like in A New Hope, we do see Alderaan get blown up, but we don't know anybody on Alderaan. We never see Alderaan.
Yeah.
We don't have that perspective.
Yeah.
We don't have that boots on the ground, like a mother holding her child as the beam is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we don't see that. We just like again, like the way you said, like kind of this abstract idea of a planet. Obi-Wan sitting down, like like 1,000, a million voices.
And not to say that's not effective.
It's effective,
right? It's just different. And for Star Wars, for A New Hope, that works.
Yeah.
That would not work for Andor.
No, but again, it's that perspective.
Yeah.
Like that this show just like absolutely nails.
Yeah.
And that like again, it's a new perspective that like we have been wanting in the Star Wars universe for a very long time.
Yeah.
Like I am if I never see another member of the Skywalker family on the big screen again, it'll be too soon.
Yeah.
I mean, in a new thing, obviously I still want to watch like the original series.
Yeah.
Like don't get me wrong. But like I don't need more Skywalkers. I have enough Skywalkers. I have enough Palpatines. Give me some people, like everyday people. That was like one of the things that I loved about The Last Jedi was that it had such a human approach to the universe, where
Like almost an irreverence for what's come before in a good way, like in a way that where it's like it clearly loves what came before, but it's not going to be beholden to it.
Right. It's like, no, like she is just a person.
Yeah.
Anybody could be that hero.
Yeah.
And then that changes in Rise of Skywalker. But like, I mean, the end of that movie is like his thesis statement that like any person can be
The kid with the broom, dude.
Yes,
like
yes. And so I love that about this show, that it like really just like the politics are so real. And they're so
like evil and dastardly and like
and realistic.
yeah.
Like it is, like I said, like from the prequels, like that are so like hard to understand and like and kind of don't make sense if you like actually put them out on a sheet of, if you actually write out Palpatine's plan. It kind of doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
It feels like you're working from, I mean, like we're working from the from the end to the beginning. And it kind of, you can kind of feel that.
Yeah,
where it's like, okay, well, how would we get? An Imperial blockade. Like, I don't know. I think this show is just like, again, that realism, that perspective is really truly what it makes this show great. And again, like we kind of talked about the arcs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the different ways, the different sections where we see the different sides of it. The first time it's these. Andor's like on the run for this like murder, the self-defense murder.
Yeah.
And we get to see like the kind of like weird local politics and like, this manhunt for like this wrongful manhunt and, that kind of thing into the heist, this like grander.
With all of the true believers in this cause, you know what I mean? And then you go into the prison arc.
Oof.
Which is, I think, legitimately like the best Star Wars thing maybe ever. Like that isolated is so fundamentally perfect. It's
again like that is the arc that makes the Empire actually terrifying and evil, like actually evil, not mustache twirling.
And it serves a character purpose.
Yeah,
like this man, he's been very clear that he's been in prisons before. He's been a soldier before, Andor as a character has, right?
Yeah.
So why is he resisting rebellion? He has lost his father essentially to these people.
Right.
Why is he resisting rebellion? Why is he doing this? Why, he's clearly fighting them anyway by stealing things from them and doing these little things, and that just drops him in and gives him this like, all right, now I'm going to war. You know what I mean? Like it makes you fully believe it in the darkest, saddest way possible.
Yeah.
So good.
I mean, again with like
turns him into a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what it does.
Yes.
It turns him from capable assassin to like irreplaceable leader.
Yeah.
in the most fascinating way I've seen in a Star Wars project ever. Like,
and again, without it being like this mustache twirling, like
yeah,
over the top evil. It's like, no, it's this like realistic genocidal.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It like, you know, ethnic cleansing kind of like, I mean, that's not what's happening in the show, but it's like, it has that feeling of like,
yeah, they're all one step away from just literally in the show. Building the Death Star is what those prisoners are, essentially a slave force is building for them. It's one step away from literally just, we're going to blow up your whole planet because you pissed us off. Like it's,
I mean, like the actually terrifying parallels to not only the real world, but the American prison industrial system.
Yes.
Where these people are actually slaves.
Right. Which is what sci-fi is about, right? It fundamentally is about commenting on today through a like bigger scope, a much more drastic, like almost less gray scope. Not that this is not gray, but like a more like, look at what you are creating. Look where we are headed, right? Yeah. And this is the first Star Wars thing I think that's ever really tackled something so one-to-one.
Oh, 100%. I mean, like the original series is like, you know, Nazis were bad guys. Like, you know what I mean? It's like uncontroversial statements only.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like, and then like the prequel series gets kind of mired in weird politics stuff, and then I think like the sequel series also kind of gets a little confused with that kind of messaging.
Not really trying to say anything. They're just like,
again, it's like kind of like Nazis are bad. It's like, we agree. Bars. Yeah.
Good job.
Like, you know what? Yeah. Controversial statements. Nazis. I don't care for these new Nazis.
No.
No, fuck them. But Andor just like exactly like what you said, like actually puts like a one-to-one analog to things that are like happening now.
Yeah.
It's like, it is an exaggerated version.
Yeah.
But only a little.
Yeah.
Like only a little.
Only in that they're building space stuff.
And only like where they kill an entire floor of people because they don't want the word to spread.
Yeah.
It's like that, you know, I'm sure that is 100% accurate to other parts of the world, maybe not necessarily the US, but like every other part of it's like, yeah, they're doing that here, guys.
Yeah, like
that's here. That's in our country. But yeah, like the writing of the show is just so phenomenal. Like we're talking about the compromises that these characters are making, the selfish choices that they're making, the gray area.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even past, you talk writing, even past the story, even past the themes, even past how all of it's presented and stuff. It's like, even just the dialogue is great.
A fucking man,
like,
baby.
even just down to the like conversations your characters are having are fundamentally great for anything, not just Star Wars, like just for anything.
It is not just a well-written plot. It is well-written prose.
Yes. Like, yes, people are poetic and people are sometimes clumsy about getting their points across. Like,
I mean, it's like that. There's that scene with Andor and his like mom Marva.
Yes.
And he's like, I'm gonna miss you and I'm gonna be worried about you like every day. And she just turns to him and she's like, that's just love.
That's just love.
Yep.
Well, another thing I love about her is that Marva as a character is right. She ultimately plays a huge role in this rebellion, at least in this smallest possible way, right?
Yeah.
But what I love is these other characters who are trying to look out for her, like, she's a rebel. And they're like, because she doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, she's just a person who is fed up and has no way to help.
Yeah.
And then in the end, she finds her way.
Yeah.
Right? But it's just the story of that. Like, she's this capable person who's gone and done these things and had this big life, but she's not a rebel until they push her too far and she finally finds a way to fight back.
Yeah.
Like, nothing comes easy for any of these characters.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so good.
I'm going to read a section of dialogue from the show that is like maybe the best monologue in all of Star Wars.
Oh, I'm so excited.
This is Luthen is talking to one of his informants, and his informant is essentially saying like, I am sacrificing everything. What are you sacrificing? Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight, they've set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearned to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I looked down, there was no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I am condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything. You'll stay with me, Lonnie. I need all the heroes I can get.
So good.
I'm literally have chills from
yeah,
reading the thing.
It's so good. This is a Star Wars project. I can't get over that. Like,
again, like, it is not just a well-written plot, which it is.
Mm-hmm.
The prose, like just the writing, the dialogue, the way that people talk is at times very real, like you said, like clumsy, like, you know, people misunderstandings are happening, and then there's beautiful prose and like well-written, like monologues and like, you know, speech, you know what I mean? Like, oh, holy shit. The other one that comes to mind is the scene with Mon Mothma and the banker guy from her home planet, and she's like essentially being like, he makes the comments like, I think my politics might be a little like spicy for you or whatever, however he says extreme for you. And then she like has this like subtle monologue about like the rebellion rising within her.
The line that I think of, she's just like the Mon Mothma everyone sees as a facade.
Yeah.
Like it's a mirror, you know, it's so good.
Yeah. I can't believe how well freaking written this show is.
I'm like worried for season 2 because of the writer's strike and because Disney was not chill about how they handled any of it. So that is rough. Yeah. I'm concerned, but as an isolated thing, honestly, like I would be fine if Andor ended with 1. I don't want it to because I love it so much, but
and there's some like
there's some through lines, but also I have the ability to go, I know what happens to him ultimately. I see where he goes, so like everything in between I can follow that journey, but I want more time with Luthen. I want more time with this like little rising rebellion because it's so cool. Like they bring in, it doesn't have fan service, but they do bring in like Saul Guerrera.
Oh, there's so few lazy cameos and like
everyone who shows up, there's a reason.
Oh,
like
Saw Gerrera being in this makes complete sense.
It
and
matters.
I'm glad he's there.
Yeah, like
like it, like that kind of like we don't see R2D2 and 3PO in the background for no reason. It's like,
which literally in Ahsoka 3PO shows up for no reason.
Yeah,
like you're like, why did we waste an episode on this? Like, move on. It's so unreal how good Andor is, and like Andor's vicious.
Yeah,
it is a vicious, like the inciting incident of the show is that he shoots a man in the face, an unarmed man in the face.
Yeah,
like, and then it just everything is a repercussion of that.
Yeah,
even him being like, this is another one of my favorite details. He's caught mid-season and put in prison for nothing.
Yeah.
For being a little skittish because he knows he's on the run. Yeah. But he doesn't go to prison for anything that he did. And then another element is he's put in prison seeing the ramifications of the thing he did or helped do, that was paid to do, and is now in prison for something completely irrelevant to that.
Yeah.
It's like all of it is so internal. It's so good.
Yeah, the fact that he is in prison not for the thing that he did, but for nothing at all.
And then, like I said, like seeing what the effect of the thing he caused, where everyone's numbers doubled, and he's like, these people are just mad that happened because they want to go home, you know, and they don't realize they're never gonna. I think Andy Serkis's character's equally fascinating. This feels like an apology for Snoke. For how upset he was. I
literally forgot he was Snoke.
Yeah, for how frustrated he was with how they handled Snoke and how publicly frustrated. This feels like them going like, "Hey, man, that one's our bad. Do you want to come be a great character?"
Legitimately, completely forgot he was Snoke.
Yeah,
yeah, that is exactly what it is. Would you like a well-written character this time?
Here
you go.
Where you get to chew up the scenery and be amazing. Yeah. Like, dude, Andor. And Diego Luna is like legitimately brilliant in it.
I think, that was quite literally my next point was the casting.
Yes, the casting. Period.
Denise Go as Deirdre, the ISB. You got it. Look at him.
See, I'm a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, he's a Star Wars fan right here. I don't know what that was. So freaking good.
Yeah,
she is so good.
I think the sniveling little
Kyle Solar as Cyril.
Dude, I think both of them I loathe both of them because they're fighting so adamantly for like the wrong side, right? Like the evil,
but
they feel so real and honest, and I'm like, oh, it's so good,
right?
It's like what I was talking about. It's like the subplots and the B plots in a lot of these Star Wars things have been like kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like it feels almost like, did y'all just want to make a show about this and you backdoored it into Obi-Wan? Like this feels like direct parallels to what we're seeing across the board. It's so, which is a novel thought to do for a story is have it be thematic. But
and have the evil characters have like nuance and be complex and
have actual motivations
and like actually be compelling. Like that's the thing is like, I don't want to see her succeed, but at the same time, like I'm compelled by her. I'm compelled by her story. I'm compelled by this like fight, this bureaucratic. Like, oh, it's so good. Cause like she's compelling. Like she's not just mustache twirlingly evil. Like
she genuinely believes in the cause that she's fighting for.
Exactly.
Like, and it makes it so much more interesting when you actually put a perspective. Like I said, talked about right at the beginning, perspective.
Yeah.
It's when you're with them, you are like in there. You're like, I understand why you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, I hate it and it frustrates me, but I understand it. It's so good.
Anton Lesser as Major Partagaz. He's the dude from. He's the creepy maester from Damn, he is so good. Like, he is kind of little bit more mustache twirling in terms of like, but he doesn't have that much depth as a character.
In such a like intelligent way though, where like you know what I mean. Like he on the surface he seems like the most like follow the rules and stuff. When she breaks the rules, he commends her for it, and then just simply goes watch your back, and walks away. It's like even the like not quite as deep characters surprise you. You know what I mean? Like it's so interesting from that perspective.
And he just adds this like gravitas to that. Oh, it's so good. Like just Genevieve O'Reilly as Mon Mothma. She wasn't originally cast in this. She was originally cast for I think she was cast in Revenge of the Sith, I think.
Yeah.
She shows up as a young Mon Mothma and then shows back up in Rogue One and this. And she is just so perfectly cast as Mon Mothma. Like, not only is she a great actress, she's just like like she looks exactly like the original Mon Mothma.
It's trippy, actually.
It's wild. And she is so freaking good in the show. We mentioned that monologue, like just her entire arc through this show of like actually becoming a rebel. Like, she's just like, she wants everyone to be, wants to help the little guy and then becomes this like actual rebel who's willing to make sacrifices, not of herself, of her daughter. Yeah. In order to help the greater good. Yeah. Like, just like
another character and performance I think is not talked about enough. He's in Ebon. I can't remember his last name. He's in The Bear. He plays he is in this character. In this show he is seemingly this full believer in the cause and all. He's like I'm a rebel, but it's me versus everybody, right? Yeah. I think he is so important to this show, and I haven't really heard anyone talk about him.
Quite literally all of the heist members.
Everyone. So,
yeah, there's no world I'm going to be able to pronounce his name, but the one you were just talking about. Yeah. Alex Lothar as Karis, Varda Sethu as Cinta, Faye Marseille as Vel. Yeah. Like all of them.
And I think that of every arc in this, you know what I mean? Like, 'cause that's by nature of doing like more traditional television where you have these arcs where some of them are just going to be more interesting than others. Yeah. Some of them you're going to have a better cast of characters than others. Andor doesn't have that problem. Yeah. I'm fascinated and in it with these characters every single time we kind of the whole prison sequence. I feel so much for all of those guys.
Every single one of them.
Like including Andy Serkis, who for a long stretch of that is like
kind of the bad guy.
Kind of at the very least, the like literal force they're having to fight against. You know what I mean?
I mean,
like
he's like the, he's like the
he's a prison guard who is a prisoner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so good.
Yeah.
But oh man. And he's a great parallel for Andor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This character who doesn't want to rebel.
Yeah.
That's Andor.
Yeah.
And then Andor's now put in a position where he's like, I can't do this. I have to. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's so good. It's so good.
And then last but not least, Stellan Skarsgård. Perfect. Immaculate.
Dude, sometimes you worry with these like hyper famous, like acclaimed actors that they'll pop up and not commit as hard. I think Stellan commits in every franchise thing he's ever been in.
Oh,
he's really good in the Avenger, like in the Marvel movies. Like he's not a big character, but every time he pops up, I like him.
Yeah.
I'm interested in him as a character, and he commits.
He even commits to the stupid shit they have him doing in the Thor movies.
Yeah,
like
this is specifically Thor 2, where he's like crazy and he has a shoe.
It's like he is such a phenomenal actor, and he is so phenomenal in this show.
Dude, it's my favorite line, and maybe the whole series is just like, don't you want to fight these bastards for real? It's like his delivery on that is like, I've never seen an actor know the answer to a question, but also genuinely curious about what he's asking.
Yeah,
he's like, I know you do, but it like shivers down my spine thinking about his delivery of so many different things. And I love the scene when he there's a person in the shop and somebody's like, it must be about this heist or whatever. And he just goes, and he just walks into the back. He's like, I must have something in the back. And he goes and he just starts laughing.
Yeah.
He's like, I did it. We did it. We're moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
All of the dialogue when Mon Mothma comes into the shop and he's like half talking about what he's trying to sell her. And like he's responding to what she's saying, but like, oh, it's so good. Oh,
it's
the
so
subtext, and the nuance.
And I really want to stress this enough. This isn't like two Star Wars nerds talking about a show that's like, whoa, it's like good. And like, this is not good for a Star Wars show. This is a good show, period.
This is in conversation with other
like HBO,
AMC,
premiere television. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's adult-oriented dramas. It's like literally, if you took out everything Star Wars in this and just adapted the like locations and sets and shit like to any revolution in all of history, it would line up really well.
I mean,
like,
this is like Vince Gilligan good. Almost.
Yes. Oh, legitimately,
like,
yes.
This is Better Call Saul
and Breaking Bad, and it's
good. Almost.
It really is close. If their season 2 is as good as season 1, I'll hold it up there with being just peak television for the day.
It's like I would like you mentioned, I would be fine if they didn't do a season 2.
Because I'm scared.
I'm scared.
And that's mostly because of the writer's strike. Like I think if this team stayed together and weren't having to battle out that, and get the thing they deserve, and Disney wasn't being terrible about it, I think I wouldn't be as nervous about it. I think I'd be like, I trust them. They clearly know what they're doing. And they're also only going to do 2 seasons, to my knowledge.
Please have a vision. Keep your vision.
That was my under 2 or 3 was my understanding, but I believe it's just 2. They were just going to do this one to kind of get here and then do a thing to bridge us to get us there.
Yeah.
But again, this is like, I can't say enough about it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm rewatching it right now, and I'm just like another small moment, which is who would think that the shots you have matter. But the shot when the guy's like, oh, if you can't find it here, it's not worth having. And Stellan Skarsgård, he just looks out the window and it kind of pans out the window and then it cuts to the ground and pans down from the ship onto Andor walking. Yeah. And because that's who he's looking for, it's like,
visual storytelling.
Visuals that you could cut the dialogue from that scene and still understand it.
Yes.
Which is an important thing to note about how to tell a story. Watch great movies. Watch incredible movies. Watch anything Scorsese has basically ever made.
Yeah.
Turn off all sound and just watch it as a visual silent movie.
Yeah.
You'll get 99% of everything.
Yeah.
It's oh my God, it's so good. Andor's so good. Do you have other notes you want
to? There's only one truly evil moment in the show, and it's after Marva dies and B2, the little droid, is like sad and despondent. Evil.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Her monologue. You want to talk about great monologues?
Yeah, that's another great
Hers
one.
at the end. I mean, originally I read that it was going to be fuck the Empire, and they didn't let him do it, and I was like, I get it. I get it. I can understand that Star Wars is mostly watched by, kids and whatever.
Yeah.
I understand not wanting to go there, but I was like, I would love to watch it cut.
I would too, baby. Hey, we can AI it. We can use AI for that one.
I also want to note, like, in terms of if you're worried that we're talking about all these characters and deep things that you might not be interested in, this show also is littered with amazing action sequences and incredibly thrilling, like, tension and drama, and it's funny at times. Like, I think of the moment after she's like, fight the Empire.
Yeah.
It cuts to a dude with a brick, which is the ashes of someone they're burying, because that's like part of their cult, and they hitting a stormtrooper across the head with a brick made of ashes of a rebel.
Yeah, and then
and it's so metal, dude. It's so good. I love this show.
Guys, Andor good.
So yeah,
Andor good.
Andor good.
Lessons. I don't know if we even need to go over lessons. We just gush.
I want to give one. There's one thing I didn't talk about. It's everything we've been saying about telling a story, making it character based, having actual writing that's thematic, and using your visuals to enforce that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about how to do a prequel. I have a hard time sometimes with prequels, and there's a lot of great prequels. That's not me saying you can't do a prequel. There's a lot of great prequels. But sometimes, in this case, part of the reason I was not excited for Andor is I was like, well, I know what happens to him.
Yeah.
How interesting can it be when I know what happens? You know what I mean? They make it so not about where he's going in the bigger sense.
Yeah.
They fully treat it like a character study.
Yeah.
Because my prevailing theory with Star Wars is you need to either go way in the future when everyone we know has been dead for 10 generations, or way in the past 10 generations before anyone we know, including Yoda. Like, no 900 years bullshit where it's about Yoda. None of that. Go to the birth of the Jedi. Go to whatever. You need to do something so that everything feels fresh and we don't know what happens to anybody.
Yeah.
So it can feel dangerous and real.
Yeah.
Andor does not do that, and yet every second I am terrified for everyone surrounding him.
Well, yes.
Yes. I'm terrified for him too, because it's like it makes me like him so much. I don't want to see bad things happen to him.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, the prison arc becomes this torturous thing.
Yeah. He doesn't have this like perfect plot armor where it's like, well, he's gonna be in Rogue One, so I know he'll be fine.
Like, we're watching him.
He's not fine.
We're watching him battle it out. We're watching him lose people that he loves. We're watching him make sacrifices. And then you add these fascinating, like, Luthen is such a fascinating character. I have no idea what's going to happen to him.
Yeah.
I am so in on that. And I think more people need to take that approach with prequels of not just like talking about Solo a little bit. It's like, how did Solo get his blaster? How did he learn to shoot first?
Yeah.
How did he get the Millennium Falcon?
Yeah.
It's like I don't care. You know what I mean?
I don't need to know how he got the fucking stripe on his pants. Like, I
legitimately,
really don't.
Yes,
there's canon reasons why he has the stupid stripe on his pants in A New Hope.
I'm not interested.
Or in Star Wars.
You know what I mean? I'm not interested. And that is why Andor works so well, is it makes me invested in him as a person even more than I was in Rogue One. Because in Rogue One, I always thought he was cool. In this, I think he's one of the best Star Wars characters.
It is not a reason to fill out the encyclopedia.
It is not. It is they came into this with, like you said, a story and a vision. They had an idea and they executed it.
Yeah.
It was made with fucking love and people who appreciate the craft of Star Wars. Because that is like the one thing I'll give the sequel series is there's a lot of really cool practical effects. There's a return to that. You know what I mean?
On
the craft of it.
On the craft, yes, 100%.
The storytelling and the choices made are very different. But like, even Rise of Skywalker is just literally like Rise of Skywalker. I think holds a record for most puppeted characters in one scene.
Oh, really?
Something crazy like that.
Sick.
Like stuff like that's like awesome. But I think doing a prequel, you need to. Andor is the thing to study right now.
Yeah.
Where it's just like how to make it still hyper compelling, even though we know exactly what's gonna hyperspace compelling. Dude, Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
Like, dude, Better Call Saul. Ethan, friend of the podcast, Ethan, talks about this a lot. He's like, I can't believe watching Breaking Bad, I never thought any of this shit about Saul. I always just saw him as this like really fascinating side character. I never thought, how did he become this?
Yeah.
And then you watch Better Call Saul and you're like, how did I not think about any of this?
Yeah.
Because it's so good.
Yeah.
The perfect example. Andor and Better Call Saul are like the two things you should watch if you want to make a prequel to anything. They're so good, and that's where all the lessons come from. It's like, you have to, one, make a great story, but two, you have to find a way to make it compelling outside of the fact that we've seen this guy before.
The fact that we like him.
It's like, I know where Obi-Wan goes. Did not care for Obi-Wan. I didn't think they told a compelling story. There's maybe one or two. I'll give Obi-Wan this. It had snippets of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Snippets of things I cared about, and I do think Ewan was quite good. I thought Hayden was very good.
Yeah. I didn't like a lot of how and why and where and what.
Oh yeah, that stuff.
Man, he was there,
and I think that of Ahsoka.
He was there in every way.
His episode in Ahsoka when he shows up, it's fascinating to watch something where you're like, you go back and watch the prequels, and it's kind of hard to defend his performance, even though I like Hayden a lot.
Oh yeah.
It is the fact that the writing and directing was not great on those movies that made him kind of the scapegoat for this stuff.
I could go on a tangent about my thoughts on his performance, on all the performances during those movies.
Other than Ewan, who carries that on his shoulders.
And that's what I was about to say. That's my thought. Is like, I think every single other actor in that franchise outside of Samuel L. Jackson and Ewan McGregor.
And maybe Liam Neeson.
Maybe Liam Neeson and Ian McDiarmid, who
who owns everything he's doing.
Yeah, who literally just gets to chew the scenery the whole time. If you are not those, even other phenomenal performers like Natalie Portman, she's a great actress.
Yeah.
Even she could not rise above the dialogue and the direction she was given. And if you're not either Ewan McGregor or you're given a fun character like Palpatine,
there's only so much you're going to be able to do.
So being the focal character, being Anakin Skywalker, he was given the hardest job he possibly could have, and he wasn't given the lifeline that he needed, which was a director shaping and not shaping, but guiding him where he needed to be.
Well, and you know what? I think something I love is he talked about when they started coming back to him to come back in these new things. He started watching Clone Wars, and he said it opened up his mind on what Anakin could be. He's like, Anakin can be a kind of Han Solo-y, cocky, arrogant, fun character. He doesn't have to be what I played him. He doesn't have to be what the prequels made him. He can be more. And so when you watch this, there's in Ahsoka, there's this great ethereal flashback, kind of it's not a flashback, it's more of a character's, there's a lot of lore going on in Ahsoka.
It's a sequence that happens.
It's a sequence that happens in this slip space between the Force and everything. It's weird. It takes a lot of watching Rebels to understand what's happening, and I have a hard time, and I've seen Rebels. But he pops up in there, and there's a flashback to the Clone Wars era, and he's making jokes, and it's I could never picture you from the prequels making that type of joke, right? And it's great. He's so good. But yeah, anyway, that's my lesson is just study how to do a prequel right and make sure it's about character and make sure it's about make sure you litter it with other stakes. It can't just be about what's the plot. It doesn't work.
See my comments on perspective and watch Thomas Flight's video. Psh, there you go.
Lesson done deal.
B segment.
I'm
okay.
We literally talked for an hour about how much we loved Andor. That was awesome.
Hell yeah, brother. Okay, we're going to play a game we've played before. One of my favorites to do. We're going to play the tagline game, baby.
Very fun.
So I'm going to give you taglines, and you're going to have to guess which Star Wars thing it came from.
Thing, so is it shows and stuff too?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Every generation has a legend.
Force Awakens.
No. Give me another guess.
Last Jedi?
No.
Is it Star Wars?
No.
Is it Phantom Menace?
No.
What is it?
Rise of Skywalker.
That pisses me off in a way I can't describe.
Never tell him the odds.
Solo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was easy. Every saga has a beginning.
Phantom Menace?
Yep. The battle continues.
Is this Attack of the Clones?
No.
Revenge of the Sith?
No.
Is it the Clone Wars movie? Damn it.
It's Empire. The battle continues is Empire's tagline.
All right.
A rebellion built on hope.
A New Hope?
No.
Force Awakens?
No.
Last Jedi?
No.
Attack of the Clones?
No.
Revenge of the Sith?
Rogue One.
Okay. No, I can understand that.
I'm pretty sure that's even close to a line that's in the movie.
Yeah. Rebellions are built on hope. Yeah, no, I know the scene. Yeah.
You'll live the adventure. You'll love its heroes. This is a trick one.
I have you fucking tricking me here. What is it? Is it some AR shit?
No, it's Caravan of Courage, an Ewok story or Ewok adventure.
Bullshit.
The TV movie from 84 or 85.
Okay, that's funny. That's funny.
The saga is complete.
See, now this is tricky. Is it Return of the Jedi?
Nope.
Is it Rise of Skywalker?
No,
like
we already did.
Is there a second tagline?
There are no second taglines in this list.
Revenge of the Sith?
Yeah. Bad, right?
Bad.
Let the past die.
That's Force Awakens. Is it Last Jedi?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the line. That's right. That's the line. Let the past die.
I'll give you that one. A Jedi shall not know anger, nor hatred, nor love.
Attack of the Clones.
Yep. For every battle, a hero. For every deception, a villain. For every star, a story.
I have no clue on that one.
I kind of like that tagline.
It's cool. It just isn't like leading me anywhere.
Wild guess. Give me anything.
Return of the Jedi?
No, it's not a movie. I'll give you that.
Oh, is it Clone Wars?
Yep.
Okay, that is cool.
The saga continues.
Is it The Force Awakens?
You're not going to get this one.
Okay,
it's
then,
stupid and bad, and I can't believe this was the one.
Give it, yeah.
Return of the Jedi. I bit my tongue. Return of the Jedi.
That's what you get for trying to trick me.
That's what I get for trying to trick him. Return of the Jedi. The saga continues?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. It ends, actually.
That's actually the end of it.
Yeah. The Force will be with you.
That could be literally any of them.
It really could be. I feel like... Just give it a guess. I feel like it's...
A New Hope?
Yep.
Yeah.
Star Wars is what it's actually.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Every generation has a story.
Is that The Force Awakens?
Yep. There are like 3 that are exact that are
just variations of the term generation
and the mightiest combat of the galaxies. This is the last one.
Attack of the Clones? What's the
No. Again, this is a trick one. This is Ewoks, The Battle of Andor, the sequel to Caravan of Courage.
Okay. That's funny.
So you got 9 right and 5 wrong.
Hey, man. That's pretty good.
Let's say like 8.5 right.
Fuck me.
So yeah. Dude, like every saga has a beginning and every generation has a story and every generation has a legend. And like there's so many of those. The battle continues. The saga is complete. The saga continues. Guys. There's
a lot of that going on.
It's like poetry. It rhymes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Georgie on that one. Recommendations.
Do you have one?
You go first.
Shit, I haven't thought of one. No, not yet. I am just gonna recommend again what I think might be the coolest Star Wars thing, which is the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
You should start with the movie, the Clone Wars movie. It's not great, but the show is genuinely awesome, and it only gets better with each season.
Yeah.
It tells some of the most like emotionally complex stories in all of Star Wars, and they're deeply entertaining, and the characters are great. Like it is the best interpretation of Anakin Skywalker, I think. Like
100%.
It's so good, and I think it comes to such an amazing conclusion with the Siege of Mandalore arc.
Yeah.
Watch that. That'll every time I'm like, I hate Star Wars, I come back to that and I'm like, okay, it's cool though. So the Clone Wars, that's my recommendation. You should watch that.
Hell yeah.
There you go.
I've got 2 things that are absolutely and completely unrelated to Star Wars, and they're both episodes of podcasts. Last night, I drove to and from Houston to shoot a wedding, and on the way to and from, I listened to 2 podcast episodes of 2 separate podcasts that I think are incredibly interesting from a filmmaking perspective. The first one was Conan Needs a Friend. He doesn't need me shouting his podcast out, but the episode he did with Werner Herzog is fascinating and hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I like hearing Conan talk about Werner Herzog's story, because so Werner Herzog just came out with a new memoir called Every Man for Himself and God Against All, which is maybe the most metal fucking title for a memoir I've ever heard.
Just a title, just metal title.
Just a metal title. Just a metal title. The conversation's like absolutely fascinating and also hilarious. Because you get to hear Werner Herzog talk about how he likes to watch the show Here Comes Honey Boo Boo. He literally talks about how he likes to watch trash TV. It is hilarious and again like insane and fascinating. It super makes me want to read that book.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the Team Deakins podcast. So Roger Deakins and James Deakins podcast, where they interview the Dallas Film Commissioner. And I can't remember his title at the Dallas Film Commission. I think he's like the events producer or something like that. I am probably wrong. But interviewing them about the Dallas Film Commission, which I think is super cool as, a Dallas native.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to hear about what film commissions do. And it's like super inspiring as an aspiring filmmaker to hear the film commission talk about like, as an aspiring filmmaker, here are things that you should be doing. Here are things that you can be doing. And they talk a lot about film festivals and like don't just submit to the TIFFs and the Sundances and but these small festivals are huge and important for not only like meeting other filmmakers, but like the way that one of them describes it is as a business card. Like this is you showing who you are to producers and directors and cinematographers and financiers and like all of these other people from within the community, and especially like going either having your films in these local film festivals, but also just like going and meeting people.
Yeah.
Really, really, really fascinating, really, really inspiring in a lot of ways. So I highly recommend listening to those 2 episodes of those 2 podcasts.
I'll be listening.
And I already listened.
To The Force, but the podcast maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts on Andor other than great?
Nazis are bad.
Yeah, that's true.
So take that home.
Take it home.
Yep.
Put it in your pocket. Keep it with you always. Right there. That pocket. Nice. Anyway, you got a lot of stuff. You got a lot of TV to watch. You got some podcasts to listen to. So you should maybe go do that. Or don't. I don't know. Live your life.